My name's Connie Boyer. I'm your mayor, City of Fairfield, and we have Melanie Carlson here today, our city engineer, and you know, she does everything pretty much. So thank you, Melanie, for your dedication. And she's the one employee, well, there's a couple, that we have to kick you out of City Hall sometimes at night. It's time to go home. Anyway, I have so much appreciation for Melanie and her work. So today is the end of January of 2025, and we want to do a quick wrap up of 2024 and give you a quick peek into 2025. So let's start with the top 10 for 2024. This really was Melanie's idea a few years ago, and so we've been doing it, I think, for 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of fun at the end of the year to go through and go, what did the city as a whole do? Not just the city government, but what happened in our community. And so this year, I think, was a really good example of the amazing work that everyone did. So let's start off with number 10.
Number 10. Lieutenant Kinsella retired after 30 years?
31 years.
31 years with the Fairfield Police Department. We've had several employees that have been with the department for several years, and so we appreciate her dedication. And she packed her bags and went to Texas as soon as she retired. But we wanted to acknowledge her dedication to the department.
Yeah, and she
on
was
that top 10 list.
And she was a few years as our police chief. So I'm sure that the department misses her, but we wish her well. Number 9 was demolition of the city-owned house on 6th Street. And we sold that lot to Fairfield, to Grow Fairfield, and we're excited because they have a home, a ready-built home that's already ordered, and we should see that come on that lot. I don't know, maybe summertime or late summer. Do we have a timeline?
I haven't heard of a timeline on that, but I have been working with the Grow Fairfield staff on getting that permit for that, and it'll be great to see that have a house on that again.
Yeah. Number 7.
Oh, I can't see that from here. I don't have glasses with me. Oh, Ragbri. Who can forget Ragbri? I can't. I still. No, it was a great event. A lot of planning put in by a lot of different parties to have that midday, even a midday event. It takes a lot of different people. And you know, that's what's great about the top 10 list is just emphasizing all of our different partners that we have.
Yeah.
And
Melanie had a big to do with that. I mean, you were all over town.
Well, I was all over town,
making sure everything was going okay.
That was that day. I was all over town that day. There was a lot of people leading up to the event.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is Carnegie Foundation replaces 48 windows on the Carnegie Museum. You want to just talk about some of the things they've done over the last 2 or 3 years? Yeah.
So the foundation, both through their own fundraising and then through a couple different endowments, the largest one I believe was Lee Gobble, and they have done some amazing improvements to the building, which is owned by the City of Fairfield, including tuck pointing of the building. There were some foundation repairs needed to one corner of the building, putting back some of the architectural details on the outside of the building. And then this last one was replacing several of the windows, bringing them back to the historical look, taking away the 70s facade, covering up the top half of the window for energy efficiency and stuff like that. But even though that 70s energy efficiency was taken out, you know, modern energy efficient windows were put in. They were still working on putting in blinds to protect the exhibits and things like that. There is also low E glass put in also to protect the exhibits. So, you know, really bringing the building up to modern energy standards and those types of standards to protect the exhibits, but still giving it that historic look. So wonderful, wonderful improvements.
And we couldn't do that without the generous donations of people who donated here from Fairfield. So thank you if you were part of that, any of that project over the last 2 or 3 years. The next one was our indoor pool receives a new deck surface. So anybody who swims knows that we got a new deck, and that's exciting. And then we hope to do the locker rooms this year, this coming year.
Yep.
So
also with that pool deck was the new ADA doors between the bathrooms and the locker rooms. I know those were talked about for a while as
Yep.
well. So those heavy doors that can be swung open with the push button are not cheap, so it was good to get those.
Yeah.
They take a little bit of time to get into our budget,
Right.
and so getting that done with the floor was also
Aren't
done.
those doors like $8,000 a piece or something?
Yeah, and then by the time you have the electronics that go with it, it's about 10. Yeah.
When I found that out, I was just, truthfully, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, we're getting ripped off. I couldn't believe that they cost that much. So this is why sometimes things take a little bit longer than what we would like to upgrade. Is just because of the immense cost of even just a door. It just seems kind of crazy, but that's the nature of the beast.
And the other thing we wanted to do is make sure that that door got set at a level that it accommodates the floor on both the locker room side and the pool side, because that new flooring on both sides is a little bit higher than what the surface was before. And so we wanted to make sure that those new doors were adjusted to accommodate that floor and isn't sticking or anything like that. So it was a timing thing as well, but you are correct, they are very expensive.
Yeah. Okay. Foster Partners.
Okay.
Out north.
Yeah. So still working on maybe some of the logistics of it being inside the city limits and the city development side of things. But Vastu Partners continues to be an excellent partner for the city, developing housing north of the community on the former Reef Green site. And they received a grant. I'm not sure, did they receive the grant in 2024 or was it 2023? But they actually...
I think it was 24, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But last year we saw the beginning of some of the construction out there and the agreements with the city and the county to start the financing and further development of that.
Yeah.
So,
and it was great because Martin, I don't know if he was calling or some people called them, and there were a lot of things that they ended up recycling, which was pretty amazing, of things that they tore down. Okay, the fire station receives huge grants, a couple big grants for the fire station. So we're excited about that. One was for equipment, one is for the building.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to get another larger grant this year.
Yeah.
So that's all great. Okay, now we're to the top three.
Yeah.
So number 3, the bridge.
Crow Creek
I'll
Bridge.
let you say.
Well, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime project for both of us. The bridge was originally constructed in 1954, so
Before we were born.
both of us. And you know, bridges have a very long lifespan, and we were lucky enough that the city had to take care of it while we were, you were in office and I was employed. The Crow Creek Bridge was a project that needed to be done, and the city received $1 million worth of state grant to help fund that project. There was money that the county had received from the DOT with the transfer of jurisdiction back in 2008 that also helped go towards that project. So it was a really excellent example of everyone working together to get a needed project done. And I think I speak for everyone in the community that I hope we don't ever have to do it again.
Well, for most of us, not in our lifetime anyway,
Yes,
unless you're real young.
Yes,
So
yeah.
we won't have to live through that. Okay, number 2 is Fairfield Productions won an Emmy for their movie Parsons.
Yeah.
And so this is Dick DeAngelis and Jason Strong and Dick's assistant, her name's escaping me, and Tim Britton and all the musicians and anybody who did any research. Just amazing work by our community. And I'm sorry, all those people don't get paid enough for how much they have donated in in-kind services. So, I mean, how many towns can say they won an Emmy, right? So we think that is way cool.
Yes.
Last one, Matt Stutzman wins the gold. So at the Paralympics last summer.
Yes.
For his archery. I mean,
how cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, congratulations to Matt, and it's wonderful that his family was able to be there with him.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be able to brag about it, you know.
It totally is. Again, what town can say they've won an Emmy and a gold?
Yeah, exactly.
And a silver, for that matter.
Exactly.
He has a silver medal too.
Yep.
So that's just really good. And so congratulations to all of you who participated in any of this, and just way to go, Fairfield. Very proud of you.
Yep.
So let's talk about, and we're going pretty quickly here. So let's just talk about some of the 2025 projects. Yeah. Obviously, we got the fire station.
Yeah.
So you want to give us a rundown of the timeline?
Yeah. So we had a pre-construction meeting, so pre-construction meeting is the initial meeting with the contractor. Christner Contracting is the general contractor that had the low bid for the fire station. They'll coordinate with all of their subs, the plumbing, concrete, their major suppliers, such as the ones supplying all of the concrete panels. But Christner's the general that's going to be coordinating everything. So we had a meeting just last week, actually, with them to start discussing their plan of action and their schedule. Some of that stuff is laid out in the plans. Certain things have to be built before others. A lot of that is, just how things are built. But a lot of that is left up to the contractor, and so we began discussing that last week. They do intend to, we don't know what's going to happen with winter. I mean, is it over? Is it ever going to get here? That kind of thing. But when winter does decide to officially be over, they'll be moving in, bringing in a job trailer, and really starting on foundations and utilities right away. And I'm going to give everyone a fair warning that it's going to more than likely look like a lot of progress is made very quickly. With having a majority of the buildings going to be built with precast concrete panels. And so it's going to, if you've ever built like a modular home, where it looks like it goes up very, very quickly, and then all the interior work still has to be done. Yeah. So then, and the same may happen with the fire station, where the outside is going to get put together relatively quickly, and then the inside work's going to seem like it takes forever. Yeah. And we'll definitely work with Werner and Fairfield Media Center and keep the public up to date as much as we can on some of that inside work. We just really need the public to give the contractor room to work and stay out at the site, and we'll keep everyone up to date as much as possible. And I think maybe have a sit down with Brett Farrell and the architects, or something, to get some more information about the details of the fire station here in a month or so.
Yeah, we talked about doing that in March, and really giving you a look at the inside plans. Yeah. And again, a little more detail about why the new fire station is needed. Still running into people who don't quite understand the whole dynamic of what's going on, and just some really interesting, I'm not sure statistics is the right word, but things about fire safety, and particularly for our firemen, that is not well known in the general public. So we'll get that covered in the next month or two. Tell us what's happening down at Chautauqua.
Well, Parks in general is going to have a very busy year this year. A lot of, I don't want to say little things, because everything that happens is a great improvement to the community. But if you've been out there this winter, that you've seen some work going on, what I call the upper part of Chautauqua, but near Shelter 1. Through the generous donations of the Ed Felger estate, there are bathrooms getting installed near that shelter, closer to Shelter 1, but also be able to be accessible from Shelter, I think it's Shelter 2, which is the brick shelter. It's 4 ADA accessible bathrooms, single user. They will be able to be stay open year-round. I'm not really for sure on the parks policy and how all that's going to proceed, since Chautauqua is closed during the wintertime, but they will be they are designed that way to be open year-round, but the foundations have been poured, the utilities are ran to that foundation, and if the weather stays as nice as it's been this week, they'll be starting to pour the floor and putting up the concrete or the block walls sooner rather than later. So we had figured that it wasn't going to be till the end of summer before those bathrooms were going to be finished, but if the weather stays this mild, we may see them sooner rather than later.
That would be great.
It would be great.
That would be
It'll
great.
be a great addition.
And again, something that costs probably 3 times as much as you would think.
Yes.
To get those things built.
Yeah.
So, how about Heritage Park?
Heritage Park, I want to say the Ledger, but Southeast Iowa Union just did an article on new playground equipment that's going out there. So the city has been putting aside some lost money or spending some lost money each year over the last several years to replace or install playground equipment at each of our parks over the last several years. O.B. Nelson, the Castle Park was a very big one that we had to deal with a couple years ago, and then Waterworks Park got new playground equipment last year, maybe it was 2 years ago. And so then this year we have funds, in the fiscal year we're currently in, we have funds for Heritage Park. And so the city has just this last week finished up signing the contracts with the contractor to get that going. We hope before June 1st that it's installed. Calvin has such a kid at heart and is great at picking out playground equipment because this one is unique and fun, just like all of the other playground equipment. It's got a tower and a slide and makes you think of something that millennials would have seen when we were kids. So Calvin does a great job at picking out different equipment for each of the parks. And so,
he's kind of had a theme for each park, I think.
Yep.
So that's been fun.
Yeah. So this one is different than the other ones. And again, if you haven't seen the pictures from Southeast Iowa Union, we'll get them up to the city's Facebook page here before long. But another unique playground. We really appreciate the work that Calvin has done on picking each one of those. Yeah,
and they're great additions, and again, they have to be planned. So, and I think the Castle Park has plans for future additions too, so we'll see that. I just want to mention very briefly, we do anticipate a new shelter at O.B. Nelson, which is being generously donated by one of our citizens. And so we're excited about that. We're getting a light near the skate park. So that's kind of exciting for that park. But there'll be more about that later. I'm just gonna say just that briefly. Let's talk about the bridge at Walton.
Yeah, as much as we try to plan for things, and I could talk entirely too long about the things that we have done to better plan our capital expenditures, we still have things that surprise us. And one of those was the pedestrian bridge at Walton Lake. And Walton Lake is owned by the city of Fairfield, as well as the land that surrounds the golf course land and some of the conservation land that is around it. And our agreements and everything that we have out there says that this is our responsibility. And so that being said, we've worked on several different possibilities on how to replace it safely to allow the golf course to continue to operate. We don't want golfers going out on Walton Road in order to continue to do what they do. We want a solution that allows the lake to have the longest life possible, really, no matter what happens in the future. And so the best solution that we came up with that has the longest useful life for the city is to replace the bridge that's out there with several culverts. So it changes it from a bridge to a causeway. And that's your engineering lesson for today.
Thank you.
And so this work has been in design, and it does, because of the size of the lake, we actually do need to get the state's dam permission. And sorry. Engineers can't talk about dams without making a joke,
right?
So we'll be taking it to the dam safety in order to get permission to proceed with that.
Do we know when that bridge was built?
I could guess. I mean, we know, John Morrissey knows exactly, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay, so I used to go fishing there with my grandparents. So that bridge is probably at least as old as me, which is now getting pretty old. And so I'm just like, okay, well, obviously it had to be, my guess is in the 50s sometime.
And I feel like that's what John said, that John Morrissey said, and that it was built around the same time that the clubhouse was built by the same contractor. And really what we saw, what they were seeing was that the concrete abutments that were holding up the bridge were crumbling and collapsed. And so that concrete could have been replaced and a new bridge put there. And that's where we made the decision that a bridge could have been done for a similar cost, but these culverts would have a longer lifespan.
Gotcha. Okay.
Without having like a weight limit or something put on it. And so that's, the culverts will require the lake to be lowered, but so would have a bridge. So right now we're again sending it to the state for their review. And once we have their permission, then we'll get bids on that. And
will it be completely drained? Or mostly drained?
Mostly drained.
Okay.
Get it as low as we can, and then hopefully the contractor can create some berms or a low enough area to continue to work.
Yeah.
I get with the culverts, they don't have to have it quite as dry as they would need to have it, again, as if they were doing a bridge, but
yeah.
So we think that, we feel this is the best method without completely removing what was there.
Okay.
So
great. Well, look forward to that. I'm sure the golfers at Walton will love it when it's done. Yeah. So last thing on our list really is to talk about streets.
Yep. We only really, as of right now, we only have one on the docket for 2025. We're all still recovering from Highway 1 being closed. Not really. Some of the reason is...
And then 34.
And 34 being closed.
So no major inlets or outlets from Fairfield is going to be closed this year.
Right. And so what is on the docket is for resurfacing of Adams from Main to 3rd or 4th. And the reason why I don't have a set ending point is because the goal is to do Adams from Main to 6th Street or just beyond 6th Street. And so we've done the design for the entire stretch, and we're really going to bid just as much as we can afford at one time. And then the next we would build the following year.
Gotcha.
And so it'll depend on how bids come in as far as how much we can afford for this year. One of the reasons for not having, a real solid list of everything that's going to be happening for 2025 is we do hope to redo our streets capital improvements plan this coming year. The way that our street priorities are selected is by looking at a combination of the traffic on a street. Is it a priority route, such as is it near emergency services? Is it near schools? Then we also look at the pavement condition, and the pavement condition is updated by the state every 4 to 5 years. And so the last time we did the streets capital improvements plan was in 2020. The pavement condition had just come out. Well, good news is we've completed most of the top priorities within that 2020 report. So great job for us as we've completed those. And so we want to redo that analysis and see if any roads have kind of shifted as far as needing a higher priority. The Jefferson County Ambulance Service has changed locations, perhaps changing the priority of some routes. We've seen some industries close or change locations in the last 5 years, so that might have changed traffic flows. So we just want to redo that analysis every 5 years to see if some routes maybe change their priorities.
Yeah. Now, is that something you do by yourself, or did we get any help from a third party to help us do that?
We do get help from a third party. The pavement conditions come from the state, and then the matrix of how we kind of score everything will be discussed with the Public Safety and Transportation Committee.
Yep.
And then that scoring, I'll work with a third party then to do estimates on kind of the roads that float to the surface.
Yeah, great.
So
awesome.
Hopefully we get that in the budget for this next year in order to redo that road, and then this time next year we can say that we have many more roads on the schedule.
Yeah, awesome. So the last thing I'd just like to say is that we are in budgeting season right now, and Melanie and our city administrator Doug Reinhardt and certainly our city clerk Rebecca Lober have been, and our department heads have all been working very hard. This is a hard budget year because of several things, but and you've probably heard it last year and this year that because of the state legislature, some of the legislation that they have put through has made it challenging for cities and counties, and not, I can't say every single one. I think depending on funding source, different types of funding sources that some cities have, it hasn't hurt them as much. So for example, if a city has its own utility and they create income that way, it probably hasn't affected them as much. But Fairfield not having their own city utility, electric utility, just makes it more challenging. So, we're hoping we don't have to lay off anybody. We're hoping we don't have to cut services, but I'm not so sure that that's not going to happen this year. So we hope that people will participate and come listen to the budget hearings so you have a good understanding. We will again have a public forum where the budget will be explained A to Z, and it's just real educational to learn about the budget and how it works and how the different pots are dealt with. So it's not all just one big pot. So it's a fascinating topic. So that's the rundown for 2025, and we will hopefully see you next month. Thanks, Melanie, for joining us, and thanks, Werner, for allowing us to come and share.